After back-to-back victories to start the season against two of their bitter rivals, the Chargers have a chance to start 3-0 in the 2025 season and 3-0 against the AFC West, a major statement from a team that hasn't taken home the division crown since 2009. They'll have to do it, though, without future Hall of Famer Khalil Mack, but waiting in the wings to replace him is a young star ready to step up.
What's up, everyone? I'm Sam Peña, a Bolt fan in the Berg for Chargers Digest, where we talk about all things Lightning. Today, we're talking about the Chargers' Week 3 matchup against the Denver Broncos. The Chargers are 2-0 heading into this game, while the Broncos sit at 1-1 after a heartbreaking last-second loss to the Indianapolis Colts last week. This is a matchup that I think is going to be a lot closer than folks realize. I know a lot of people are picking the Chargers to win this one by a sizable margin, just based on how the teams have looked the past 2 weeks, but I think Denver is a good football team, and I think they're going to pose a real challenge for the Bolts in Week 3. So without further ado, let's talk about it. I think the first key to victory for the Chargers is the same key it seems like every single week, and I will continue to say it until proven otherwise, and that's protecting Justin Herbert. I know so far the Chargers have had a pretty strong start this season for pass blocking for Herbert. Right now the offensive line ranks have them as 7th in the country right now for pass blocking efficiency and pass block win rates as well. Trey Pipkins has filled in admirably since the Rashawn Slater injury, and we already know that Joe Alt is one of the best left tackles or right tackles in all of football, wherever you place him. Surprisingly, I think players like Zion Johnson have also performed very well at the start of this season, and Herbert has had a significant amount of time to be able to throw, it seems like, on every single snap. That could change this week, though, against the Denver Broncos. They have a fantastic edge rusher in Nik Bonitto, who has continued to ascend the ranks of edge rushers since he's come into the league. Now, Bonitto is someone that the Broncos have been very high on since they drafted him, and so far this year, you could argue that he's the best pass rusher in all of football. When you look at pass rush win rates, right now, Nik Bonitto is number 1 in the country with 28 wins and a 39% pass rush win rate. Tops in all of the league, right above Will Anderson, who we already know is a phenomenal edge rusher for Houston. Now, Bonitto is flanked on the other side also by Jonathan Cooper, and then on the interior, the Broncos have some good pass rushers as well, with guys like DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers, and Zach Allen. So this is going to be a major challenge for the Chargers offensive line to be able to keep Herbert clean in this game. But I think the Chargers are going to have their opportunities against this defense for the Broncos. And the reason I say that is because of the people behind that front five, the linebackers. That's my second key to victory, which is attacking the Broncos linebackers. Alex Singleton and Justin Strand, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but so far they have not performed well for the Broncos this season. When you look at some of the numbers, last week against the Colts, Singleton and Justin Strand were targeted on 6 plays by the Colts. They gave up 6 catches for 126 yards in those games. That was kind of the same case last year when the Chargers faced them in Thursday Night Football when Herbert led that comeback victory. A big part of that was him targeting the linebackers in coverage with the tight ends and also the running backs down in the backfield. I expect to see, you'll also see McConkey isolated a bit more in the slot as well, especially now as that guys like Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston have proven themselves as threats. Defenses are not going to be able to devote as much coverage to McConkey, so if he can sit underneath and find the holes in the zones that are left by Singleton and Strand, I think the Chargers are going to have an opportunity in this game to exploit them for big gains. Now, last year, they gave up 7 catches for 103 yards on 8 targets by Herbert in that Thursday night game. That's a trend that I think will continue unless Dre Greenlaw is able to go for the Broncos, but it seems like that's not going to be the case. Dre Greenlaw is still working his way back from an injury. He was one of the big free agent signings for the Broncos this offseason. He hasn't played in the first 2 games after suffering an injury in training camp, and he already is someone who has not been practicing this week so far for the Broncos. In addition to that, Justin Strand also has not been practicing for the Broncos, so the Broncos could be very, very thin in this linebacker room. That's where I think the Chargers are going to have to do their best work if they want to win this game. Expect the Chargers to call call a lot of plays that are going to try to isolate their receivers underneath, and also expect them to exploit the blitz. That's my third takeaway in this game, which is Herbert's success against the blitz. If he is able to pick apart the Broncos when they try to bring pressure, I think this is going to be a very successful day for the Chargers offense. When you look at the blitz numbers so far this year, Herbert has been one of the best in the entire league, and that's a trend that's been continuing since he got into the league. When you take a look at some of the offensive stats for Herbert right now against coverages, he actually was ranked number 4 in the NFL last season when throwing against the blitz. Now, we've talked a lot about the offensive keys to this game. I think the defensive side is also really interesting right now for the Chargers because I think this is a matchup that is going to be kind of a barometer for them on what life is going to be like without Khalil Mack. Bo Nix is someone who's been a bit up and down in his NFL career, but he's been mostly up since the second half of last season, although the start of the season has been up and down once again. Week 1, he struggled mightily and won the game. Week 2, he actually played pretty well and then lost the game. Bo Nix is someone who's going to try to push the ball down the field, and I don't think the Chargers are going to be able to get after him to be able to prevent him from taking those shots. When you look at this Broncos offensive line, it's one of the best in all of football. I talked about the Chargers' success rate when it comes to pass blocking efficiency. Well, guess who's number 1 in the entire league so far? You guessed it, the Denver Broncos. They've been excellent this season at keeping pass rushers away from Bo Nix, and a lot of that has been Garrett Bowles, who is one of the top tackles in the league right now when it comes to pass blocking win rate. When you look beyond that as well, you see that the Broncos have a pretty good interior offensive line as well. You have guys like Ben Powers, Quinn Miners, and then at right tackle, the old stalwart Mike McGlinchey, who's been a solid right tackle since the moment he got into the league. This Broncos offensive line is going to be a struggle for the Chargers to be able to get pressure on Nix. And now that Khalil Mack is gone, it's just going to be an even bigger challenge as well. Right now, it's going to be up to Tuli Tuipulotu and Caleb Murphy. They're the in-house options that are probably going to get the majority of the snaps against the Broncos this week. But the Chargers did just sign 2 veteran pass rushers in Clelin Ferrell and Rashad Weaver. Weaver really hasn't had much playing time in the NFL. He has a very minimal snap count to be able to look at so far to judge his success. He's someone who's been mostly seen as just a backup option. Clelin Ferrell was someone who has been considered a major bust in the NFL. He was drafted number 4 overall by the Raiders a few years ago. Since then, he's gone from the Raiders over to the Commanders. He also had a brief stint with the Niners as well. He's just never been someone who can consistently live up to the praise that was given him when he was drafted. He was also seen as a bit of a reach when he was drafted as well because he was considered a late-round pick due to his lack of athleticism. But the Raiders took a chance on him, didn't work out. Here he comes to the Chargers right now. He had 3.5 sacks last year. He's going to have to do a lot more than that if he's going to hope to be able to give the Chargers a little bit of a replacement for Khalil Mack. But I never say never when it comes to Jesse Minter. He's someone who has proven that he can take any talent and turn them into a real productive NFL player. Here's to hoping he can do that with some minimal options right now for the Chargers. The Broncos are a team that's going to pose a challenge for the Chargers. Make no mistake, if the Bolts think this is going to be an easy walk to 3-0 at the start of the season, that's not going to happen. The Broncos were considered a fringe playoff team when they entered this season. So far, they haven't lived up to that billing, but I think with a coach like Sean Payton and a young talent like Bo Nix, it's only a matter of time. But I think the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert are in good hands. And with Jesse Minter captaining that top-tier defense so far, I think we can expect a major victory for the Bolts in Week 3. Thank you all so much again for watching. I'm Sam Peña, a Bolt fan in the Berg for Chargers Digest. I would love it if you guys could like and subscribe. We're trying to build the channel here from the ground up. And remember, Bolt Nation, always bolt up.